All right, welcome in everyone to another MLB Hot Stove Happy Hour here on the Ryan Ripken Show. Hope you guys are having a great day. We got a lot to talk about here, and we're back once again, and it's really close to baseball season. And so, for those wondering, we will change around our programming as we get towards spring training. We got a lot more action for baseball. We're still closing out certain things with football season, but today it's all about baseball for an hour. Zach Bollinger above me to the left, Rocco DeSangro above me to the right. And fellas, it should be great. Rocco, we got a few burners to hit tonight, my friend.
We do indeed. A few burners on this show, and it's a Hot Stove Happy Hour for a reason. We're going to start with Ryan Mountcastle news. He's been in kind of reports, talks, wondering what's going to happen with him going forward as the offseason kind of continues to heat up. And another guy that plays that same position, Pete Alonso, will he be going back to the Mets or will he be going elsewhere? Burner 2, some big moves. Today, this week, just around the baseball world in the offseason, we're talking about those big moves. Who's going where? Who's going to be in a new uniform? And what teams have really loaded up in the offseason ahead of 2025? Burner 3, Alex Bregman. He's going to be on the burner until he's off the burner. I mean, we've been talking about this guy for weeks and for good reason, because I feel like a lot of the baseball world right now, guys, is waiting to see where this guy's going to sign because he's such a big name, if not the biggest name left on that free agency market. And then burner 4, we're going to talk about the O's because we have to talk about the O's. You got one former O's legend who is now going to be with the team in an important role going forward. The team's young star made history, I think, for him. And it's a pretty cool milestone for him and his young You're giving me that look, Zach, but you know what? It is history. And we're going to talk about I think it's history for him. He's a young guy. He's an Oriole.
Oh, for him. I thought you were like for an Orioles player on a video game. I was like,
to be on it with 2 other people, I would say that's history.
I mean, some people get video game covers by themselves.
See, this is why we go off track and completely off the rails, and Ryan just sits
That's
there.
the reason.
He's like children. Relax right now.
Uh-huh.
Can you name the last Oriole on a video game cover?
Cal Ripken. No. Was it Miguel Tejada?
Might have been Tejada. Anyway,
he wasn't in.
Anyway, we'll talk about it. Can you relax? Pump the damn brakes for a second. In the 2 pitchers we're going to talk about with the Birds, one of them had to say something. One of them had to show something. He's showing his talent. So we're going to talk about all of that and more. I could have phrased that better probably on a brand new episode of Hot Stove Happy Hour presented by the Ryan Ripken Show. And let's jump into it with probably the biggest news in this area, I guess, is you see names and players linked to certain reports. And a name we've been seeing for a long time linked to reports. And it's been since I feel like 2 seasons ago. It's Ryan Mountcastle. He always pops up as a trade piece, a trade chip. But the Orioles have not moved on from him. And Mountie, he comes through in the clutch at times. And there's other times that Mountie could definitely perform better, but he's a guy that I feel like is loved here. He's a fan favorite, and he goes out there every day and performs to his, the best of his ability. So let's get into that Ryan Mountcastle talk and what his future could look like if it's not in Baltimore or if it is in Baltimore, and what his value could be elsewhere.
Yeah, so I think we need to give a little more context to everyone on this situation, because the reason why this is being brought up involves the other really coveted free agent first baseman that hasn't been signed. On Thursday or on Monday's show, Zach, we talked about how Steve Cohen on the Mets at their fan fest or at their fireside chat just essentially said he didn't like where the conversations were going. And I think when it came to deals and what was available there, it seemed like the Mets were giving the best offer. So to start this conversation, just so everyone can get why we're getting to the Ryan Mountcastle rumor, it's what's going on with Pete Alonso. So let's play that clip, Zach, about Pete Alonso's situation right now.
Just reading things that it sounds like the Mets are closer to moving on than bringing him back. Maybe the Toronto Blue Jays. Where are you on the Alonso market?
So, I mean, here's the thing. The Mets seem like they've moved on.
Yeah.
And now the reports are they're looking at Spencer Torkelson in Detroit, to play first base.
Wow.
They talked about Ryan Mountcastle in Baltimore for first base. And look, if Bregman goes back to Houston, Isaac Paredes, like, I'm not reconfiguring my team without two big. I'm trading Paredes to get an outfielder, a left-handed bat, ideally for them. And so you could start to look at the Mets looking at, with the rumor out there, they're looking at alternatives right now. They sort of realize it's not there. Now, the reports are that the offer from the Blue Jays is not more than the Mets offer, but the Mets offer is not on the table. Now, the Blue Jays want to get Alonso because I think they're getting Max Scherzer hinges on Alonso.
Okay.
Because Scherzer wants to go to a team that has a chance to win. And he thinks right now, if they don't get Alonso, they may not be a team that has a chance to win. But if they do, then he might be willing to go to Toronto as well. So Alonso is an important guy for Toronto. One, it protects for Vladdy. You get Alonso, Santander, and Guerrero in the middle of the lineup with Bichette coming back.
Let's go.
It changes the look for them. And Scherzer becomes your number 5 starter. That's a pretty good setup right there. You win your offseason if you do that. But, man, they need to get Alonso done.
Don't have enough time. I could dive into all these conspiracy theories. I'd love to dive.
Hey, well, this is the climate for it, Harold.
Oh, absolutely.
You're
No, he's saying a lot of great stuff. I do think Torkelson's interesting.
I like Torkelson, too.
And
I would take a shot.
I think that if that deal happens, that who was trying to trade for him again? That was
Mets.
The Mets are trying to trade for him.
If they don't get Alonso back.
Then people be back. And I think the Bregman idea is gone, too, in Houston. Because I think Bregman then goes to Detroit.
Maybe, yeah.
Because they got to have a bat. You can't just say we're getting rid of Torkelson and not have some bat to come back.
So there's a lot of moving parts. It's all around Pete Alonso. And things that we're hearing consistently here is that the best deal on the table looks like it was the Mets, and it's no longer on the table. And for what we saw Anthony Santander sign, 5 years, $90 million, it's $18 million a year average value for a salary. The rumor was Pete wanted up to $30 million a year. If that was the case, clearly the Mets that have wanted to spend, they're not doing that as much at this moment. So you look elsewhere. Torkelson on the Tigers, when they brought him up, you're looking at teams that might not have a fit there. And the Tigers, Spencer might be the odd man out in Detroit. And then you look at the other side. This is where Ryan Mountcastle jumps into the equation. I love Mountie. Mounty's one of my favorite players. He was the best hitter when I started off in the Orioles minor league system. Just dude knows how to hit. But it's not about whether or not you love Ryan Mountcastle. It is he available because of your pipeline? And Zach, there's a corner guy for the Orioles that's sitting in the minors and had a little bit of time in the bigs last year, high prospect, that's not going to play third with Jordan Westberg there. And he's a right-handed bat. I think you know where I'm going. It's with Kobe Mayo. So that is where this conversation is going. The Mets are looking at how willing would the O's be to trading, in my mind, to then give more bats to Kobe Mayo, Zach.
Yeah, and this is one of my favorite parts of the MLB offseason and stuff. It feels like we're at yet another I don't want to call it a full stop because we had some moves happen over the past few days. But it's once again, it feels like for probably the third time this offseason, everything hinges on one person. It's like if Alonso goes back to the Mets, then Toronto's got to, go elsewhere. If he goes to Toronto, then all of a sudden Max Scherzer's going to Toronto. Then the Mets are looking at Torkelson or Mountie. So it's kind of the beauty of the chaos in baseball. But like you said, to put that Steve Cohen said that they're frustrated with the situation is putting it lightly. He didn't mince words about how he felt and how they are okay with moving on if that's what it takes. And as we now know, it doesn't look like the Mets have an offer on the table. So maybe just by default, that means Alonso is heading to Toronto. So that changes the landscape there. And then if you are the Orioles, you have to look at and say, hey, that's a damn good lineup up there in Toronto. We got to compete with that because that's a good lineup. The Red Sox are a damn good lineup, and the Yankees are a damn good lineup. And the Rays made a move today as well to improve. So everyone else is getting better. So you got to, take everything into account. Do you move Ryan Mountcastle off of, the roster to put Kobe Mayo in at bats? But then you're thinking, okay, now that's another young guy we have to do. And are you getting prospects back? Are you getting prospects that you're then going to flip for more major league talent? There's so much that goes into this that really all hinges on these few guys remaining. So these are the fun parts of the offseason, but it's the parts of the offseason as well that this changes the trajectory of teams. If Alonso goes, depending on where he goes, Bregman goes elsewhere. Then you go, hell, you even see if Alonso goes to Toronto, then Spencer Torkelson gets traded to the Mets. Now Bregman could potentially go to the Tigers. So just so many different avenues right now, and really just the chaos of it.
Chaos, Rock. And it is. And for the record, Rock, before you go, I don't want Ryan Mountcastle to go anywhere. Personally, no. I love Mountie. And I think that he's undervalued. And the only reason we've seen down swings from Mountie has really been when he's been injured or he's been dealing with vertigo. Yep. And I think people can understand when you're dealing with vertigo, that throws with you, that messes with you in so many more ways than one. And he had the wrist injury at the end of the season. He's a really good pure hitter. So you got to understand if you're going to make that sacrifice. We're pointing out, Rock, that's just the fact is if you're moving Mountie, that means then for all likelihood, you are opening up a spot for one of your young prospects. And in that case, Kobe would be the most logical because of the need.
And I think that's what you want to do as the Orioles. We talk about all the time in trade packages, putting all these like young chips in there, the prospects, but we don't really talk too much about, the older guys. And not saying Mountie's an older guy, but when you compare him to a 21 or 22-year-old Jackson Holiday, he is one of the older guys. And you look at, he'll be 28 before the season starts. I think he turns 28 in February. So birthday's coming up. But with Mountie, I see people in the comments talking about, why not trade a Mullins? Why not trade this guy or that guy? The team control is a big factor in that trade piece. And Mountie, he's not a free agent until 2027. So that's 2 more years of team control if a team does trade for him. So that's very valuable for an organization. Not to mention that when Mountie's on, he has potential to be one of the best power hitters in the American League. Not saying the best, but like up there in the conversation, the way the guy hits the ball. And when he's on, you put him against Toronto, 162 games of the season, he might be the best player in all of baseball. He is a Blue Jays killer when it comes down to that. But he does bring value to the table because of what he does at the position, because of what he does with his bat, with his glove as well. So for a Mountcastle, it doesn't surprise me. And again, I'd hate to see Mountcastle go, but this is something that could potentially be needed for guys like Kobe Mayo to start on the Orioles, because we saw Kobe Mayo last year. I don't think he was a bad third baseman per se, but you can get exposed at that position at the hot corner. And for a guy as big as he is, at his size, it's a tough position to play, man. So if you stick him over at first base, you put him more in a position he might be a little more comfortable with. It makes sense going forward. But Rip, to that I would ask, and Zach, the question is, what would Mountie's value be then? Like, what would the return price be for Mountie if you're going to dish him? If you're going to trade him, what are you getting back?
Yeah, and that's the part where I look at let's say it was the Mets, right? Like if this is the team, they're trying to win right now, like the Orioles are. So they would, in my mind, they'd have to give up someone that has upside for the future and maybe like a stopgap type of guy that has upside. Like, for instance, I go back to different circumstance, but Jorge Lopez, when he was traded from the Orioles to the Twins, the Orioles were in the running, but they went and got a couple guys, one upside guy, and then also got a guy in Cano who showed flashes, but you weren't sure, but he was ready to help a big league team right now, but you didn't know what level of player you were going to get. So do you want to roll the dice with that? That's where I don't know if I would do that. And Zach, I think you're probably the same way.
Yeah.
I think Mountie's value is extremely high. I think that it's really just been the vertigo bouts that have stopped him as a hitter. But when he's played a full season, he is on the top tier of first baseman. If you're going to say there's 30 first basemen in the league, he's within the top 15 easily. And when he's on, he's easily within that top 10. So it's a hard thing to value, but there is a value, Zach, to him being under team control. And that is even more appealing to some teams.
Yeah, and just, kind of last thing before we move on. So let me get the name. Brian Germanero for Rising Apple, which is powered by Fansided. Mets writer put out a mock trade earlier today, and he pretty much said Ryan Mountcastle in exchange for Blade Tidwell and Jack Wenninger. Tidwell is their 8th best prospect. Both are pitchers under 24.
See, Blade Tidwell. I think he was a Vol, and he was a stud there.
Yeah, so Tidwell is the star of the thing. He's their 8th best prospect. They think he has an electrifying fastball, but trouble finding the zone. They said he'd debut at some point for the Orioles, and the other guy is their 29th best prospect, a little younger, and he's another electrifying fastball type guy. So that, I don't know if that how accurate that value is, but I do think it would be the Orioles, kind of what you're saying, Ryan. You are still competing, so maybe a Tidwell type prospect where it's a young, controllable pitcher that will also be able to help this year, while down the road, maybe that's something. Maybe they just get prospects to then flip for another guy. You never know, but that's the one example. I was looking for mock trades out there. That's the one that I found, at least from a Mets standpoint.
I'll say this, the end of it, to wrap this up, just knowing how Steve Cohen works, even though he's irritated, I still wouldn't be surprised if they go, here's the final thing, Pete, you want to be a part of it, and they get a deal done.
With that, yeah.
I think Pete's Mets or the Blue Jays. But I do really feel like there's still a strong sense that he goes back. But if you're the Mets, you got to look at what else could be out there. And that's why Ryan Mountcastle's name is thrown into it, whether that is true or not.
It's a business at the end of the day, man. You got a guy that's been a Mets lifer that helped the Mets, get to that NLCS, and they played out of moment after moment after moment. Pete Alonso was stepping up and making big play after big play. At the end of the day, again, the owner of the team is going to look out for what's best for their future. And in his mind, that might not be Pete Alonso. I disagree, but what do I know? Moving on. Burner 2. Some of the moves today and just recently in baseball, and there's been a lot. Just players on the move left and right, players signing left and right. For you guys right now, baseball free agency, it seems to be, I don't know if teams are not, or players and agents are panicking because it's getting so close to spring training, like it's right around the corner, or, simply it's the best deals are no longer on the table. Rip, from your standpoint, what you've seen in the past with baseball, and we talked about the business side of it, what's going on right now, and are we going to see more of this moving forward?
Man, I'm seeing right now, as far as moves are concerned, I still think it's always more of a worry for pitchers going into spring training than it is anybody else. And one name that still isn't signed that we haven't talked about, Jack Flaherty, still not being signed. And I even heard him talking about it. It is kind of crazy for me as you're getting closer to going to spring training. That is the wild part of it. But I do think, Rock, we might see some desperation moves start to happen, or things have to pick up because there's a sense of urgency. But what we saw that's what we saw in this wave of situations today. Kim to the Rays, right? That was a move. He got it done moving forward. Even trades. Taylor Rogers going to the Reds from the Giants. Kirby Yates having his deal finalized. I know that didn't happen just today. But, Rock, I think that we're going to feel an urgency here over the next 7 to 10 days, because a lot of pitchers and catchers for most teams are going to be opening up right after the Super Bowl ends. So it's right around the corner. And I'll tell you, I think that we saw it last year with the Orioles, for instance, trading for Corbin Burns. I think that there's desperation that's starting to set in because they know it's hard to play catch up, even if it is in spring training.
Yeah, it is. And that we're at that point of the offseason. I don't want to, Rocco, you kind of called it. I don't think it's necessarily, quite yet a panic, but it's at the point where, all offseason you kind of tell yourself hey, it's just November. Hey, it's just December. Hey, we just got to the new year, spring training. It's February in 2 days? It's suddenly, hey, we're showing up to work in 2 weeks. This team has to be fielded. We need to have, if not the complete team, a good idea of what the team's going to look like. And for players as well. We talked about last year, the Blake Snells, the Jordan Montgomerys, all of them. It was not easy once you get into spring training, getting into that groove. So I think this is really going to be over the next week and a half, 2 weeks, where we see people really start flying off the remaining big name free agents, hopefully coming off the board.
Yeah, I mean, right now, correct me if I'm wrong here, pitcher-wise, Jack Flaherty is probably the biggest name still left.
Without a doubt.
And then like Max Scherzer, a guy that's kind of holding off and seeing what's happening. But bat-wise, I mean, there's some big names still left there. Now, I do find it interesting with teams. I think that one thing, Rock, I wanted to point out is that teams that are finally having to make decisions, maybe they were really in on a couple guys, but now they're like, hey, we had money allotted for certain people, but now we're at a point we can't let this sit, right? So when you're seeing the recent move with Conley going to the Tigers was another 1-year contract, Tigers are going, okay, well, we need to bolster our bullpen. Has to get done, right? So Bregman or no Bregman or whoever's out there, we got to allot this money now. I think that is where teams are kind of setting in here. I think for the big names, teams are trying that were in on them potentially have to really start to form their roster. And like coincidentally, a lot of people are worrying about things with the Orioles. The Orioles don't need to do that. Technically, they really don't. They have who is going to be their kind of their starters. I mean, hell, Austin Hayes just signed today, with the Reds. So
Not today. Yesterday?
It was yesterday.
Or yesterday.
Feels
Sorry,
like I don't even know. No. I'm not trying to be an asshole. Like
it was first
your
reported.
point is just happened. Yeah. Like within the last 2 days. Sorry, 28th. But there's Austin Hayes, a guy that's a former All-Star, and now he's getting picked up. And think about how he wasn't really talked about the last couple months.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So
that's funny that you brought up Austin Hayes. I was out at a trivia the other night. My buddy was doing the the Immaculate Grid, and one of them was left fielder that has been an all-star, and Austin Hayes was like 0.3% of the answer. So it's a trivia question for the O's fans. No, it's not I don't know if the rest of baseball does. With Flaherty, though, you have to wonder if it's money, if it's need, or if it's injury-related history. Because you guys remember last year at the deadline with the Tigers and the Yankees, they had that potential trade in place. The Yankees were like, physical doesn't look like what it should be right now. So I'm not saying that's the case here, but it damn well could be. If Flaherty is a guy that we're looking at and saying, why the hell isn't this guy signed? Why the hell isn't this guy signed? Why hasn't he signed yet? Because the need for starting pitching seems like a lot of teams need a solid starting pitcher. And I'm not saying Jack Flaherty is a top of the line guy because he's not, but he could definitely contribute to a pitching staff. So for him not to be signed,
too many pitchers.
Exactly. For him not to be signed kind of baffles me. And you have to wonder what's going on with Jack Flaherty. Is it more than we're seeing right there?
I think with that too, with Jack, it was a kind of a similar, I'm not going to say similar, but when we think about the conversation and you look at what happened last year with the pitching market, where like Snell and Montgomery, they were waiting for a certain deal that the rest of the teams didn't want to make for them, right? Then Snell gets the big deal this year, obviously. I wonder if Jack wanted more stability for years and it wasn't being given. And then you're kind of sitting at, well, does Jack want to take one less year of stability and a little less money? Or does it take maybe one more year of control, but less money on the deal? Like, that's how it looks to me. Because he's a guy, when I look at it, you're saying not being a top end of the guy. Jack Flaherty has the ability, whether people like to hear this or not, the dude could go on a run of being a top 15 pitcher moving forward in baseball. Because he was doing that last year. Might not.
I mean, whether people want to admit it or not, and I don't necessarily agree, I still am baffled by it. Jack Flaherty started Game 1 of the World Series.
He did.
Yeah. Well, and also, look at the ERA for him. And if you go back to his early years, what derailed him was injuries. But when he came to the big leagues, he was the top line guy for the Cardinals.
Was he?
And it's not that he's old. So that's the part where you're looking at it. He's going to be going into this year. He's 29 years old. So, you're looking at a guy, well, upside-wise, could he have another good year where he's a really good number 2 with the upside to moving into the top 15? yes, he has that upside. But Rock, it's probably because of them looking at, okay, it was last year just the fluke. Is he going to be healthy? And also, what's the contract length going to be? But he's the last piece that's out there that can really help a team for more than 1 year. But it's the bats. To me, Rock, the bats, something's going to go there soon. Has to be under that. And I mean, does that kind of lead in? I mean, do we have any more with burner 2 we want to go, or can we lead into burner 3? Because
last thing about burner 2 is Hyesung Kim will not be ready for opening day. Just, I know he got a pretty nice deal with the Rays, but he will not be most likely ready for opening day.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Good.
So kind of though, hey Rock, when we talked about though that hey, teams have to make decisions on guys, and they have to start rostering or finishing out their roster going into spring training in the season. The Tigers made a move for Conley. Apparently they were in on the guy we're about to talk to next, but yet he's still sitting there. Now people are starting to wonder.
Don't mislead people. Like, we're gonna have him on our show maybe in the future though.
Yeah. Okay. Just go to the.
What?
Alex Bregman is a guy that we've talked about, like we've had him on our show week in and week out, because we've talked about the guy so much, and that's the biggest topic of conversation in burner 3 is Alex Bregman. Is it going to be him staying in Houston? Has that ship sailed? Is it going to be him going to a Chicago? Is it going to be him going to a Boston? What the hell is happening in the Alex Bregman sweepstakes, if you want to call it that? And where is this guy going to end up? And I know that John Heyman, very respected baseball beat writer, he talked about Bregman and the situation right now and maybe how we could see this unfold going forward. You want to pull that video up, Zach? Be a doll, buddy.
One team that will eventually get Bregman, what team would that be? I mean, if we sit here today, maybe I would say Houston. We know kind of where they've at least have a starting point at 6 for 156. I'm going to say them, but there is an alert of the Cubs. We just saw his great friend Ryan Presley leave the Astros to go to the Cubs. There are 2 Astros now on the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs are an interesting team. They're a fun team. You've got Tucker now in right field. You've got Presley now as the closer. That may be an extra alert for Bregman. I know that he and Presley were close. Maybe the Cubs could come in there. So I'm going to say one of those 2 teams. I think I tweeted that a week ago that Houston and the Cubs were certainly big players in on Bregman, but I don't know that we're close at this moment. One of these other teams is going to have to step up. And if they step up and go to that 6th year or 7th year, the Cubs, Red Sox, they might be able to nab them, because we all know where the Astros are, and that wasn't good enough. But if I had to pick one team today and just guess, I might guess the Astros.
I'm just going to say first, if he goes to the Cubs, I'm just referring him to as the Chicago Astros. Like, the Cubs going for it for a year would just be acquiring as many Astros players as they can.
Yeah, it looks like that. Like, if he did do that. But here's that thought process again, Rock. Like, we're sitting here, and Alex Bregman makes a lot of sense for a lot of teams. And I know some people are looking at, well, the value and leaving. Is he going to be worth that contract? I'm done trying to explain my feeling on how I think Alex Bregman can help a team win a lot of games, because he does more things than just be a tough at bat. He plays good defense. He's a pro's pro, and that's a huge part of it. But when you're looking at the Astros now and the reports that Jose Altuve would be open to moving to the outfield to bring him back, but Houston's in a weird spot too, where they made room by moving Presley, who, obviously just mentioned that they were friends. But then the Astros, are they a better team than they were when they bring back Bregman? I don't know, but it's familiarity. I still think Boston still would make a lot of sense. Detroit makes a hell of a lot of sense. But again, it looks like the numbers are still off for bringing in a guy. And that's a good deal. I mean, 6 for 156, you're looking at $25 million a year for him. Mm-hmm. So clearly they think that is not enough to get a guy like Bregman, but it's still a guy nonetheless that come playoff time, you're going to want him in your lineup. When you're trying to get through the dog days of the summer, he's a guy you want in your lineup. And no doubt he is going to add an element to your team that is going to be able to elevate your own skill set and your guys around you by having them on your squad. But Rock, like, here we are.
Yeah.
It's the 29th. Hitters have a better chance to get ready for spring training than pitchers. So, like, if it bleeds in, it bleeds in. But it's not what you want, especially if Bregman goes to a team that isn't Houston. You're trying to get acclimated with a different group, and you want as much time as you can to get settled in.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Rip. And with Bregman, the Astros, if you have Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, and Yordan Alvarez on the same roster come October, I would hate to be on the other side. And it's like seeing those guys, they're like the Grim Reapers when it comes to baseball. It's like your postseason hopes most of the time, they go to die if you're playing the Houston Astros. That's how it's been for years until, they ran into the Rangers and the Rangers took care of business. And then last year, obviously, we all know what happened. But looking at this team, I don't, while it looks like the ship might have sailed, why does it have to? Why can't they bring Bregman back? If they feel like Bregman can be a key part going forward, like he has been in the past, like he has been a part of their success, say what you want about the Astros. Again, the controversy, the scandals, like he's still a hell of a ball player. He can hit the cover off the ball, and he's great. I mean, he's great in the field. So bringing him back would be a no-brainer. But for the Astros, I don't know if Alex Bregman is going to take a discount if he can find, more money elsewhere as he gets up there, gets older. He's not getting any younger. Neither is any baseball player. But you look at that and you're like, okay, does it make the most sense? But I know damn well for the rest of baseball, that's not a team you'd want to face in the postseason. If they're in an ALCS, you got Bregman, Altuve, and Alvarez, and just who else they have on their roster.
Yeah, and Zach, I wanted to point this out here. For Bregman, I saw some comments here about, and I understand if people saying, hey, bat speed or pitchers filling up the zone against him. What is Alex Bregman's best quality to me? He posts up and shows up to play. And he's an everyday guy. Like, you want that Alex Bregman the last 3 years, the least amount of games he played was last year at 145. He hit 260, sure. He had 26 jacks and hit 260 and played 145 games. Year before 161, year before 155. 2021 injury plagued. 2020, we know what happened there. But then the previous 3 seasons, 156, 157, 155. Zach, I think that sometimes we devalue when you're signing a guy, that you're getting the guy. And that's something that I think we do devalue a little bit. This isn't that you're looking for Alex Bregman to give you 100 games. He's looking to be out there for almost every single game, and he's been consistent to help your team in more ways than one. That's where I stand with him with this. And that's why if I am Boston, I'm finding a way to say, hey, go. Cora was even saying he'd put him at second. Can you imagine Cora putting Bregman at second and having Devers and Tristan Casas if they keep him? It's a good team. So it's a scary team.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Rick, because I'm tired. I don't know where in the past year or so this sudden, like, Alex Bregman isn't a star kind of started taking over people's mind. Alex Bregman, like, it is mind-boggling that he was not one of the, when people were talking about the offseason going in, it should have been Juan Soto, Sasaki, Bregman. Like, it maybe it's Blake Snell's up there. Like, Bregman should have been one of those guys. It feels like he just still, like, you see rumors here and there, but it hasn't felt like there's been this true push for Alex Bregman. It feels like teams are sitting around going, you guys updated your offer, and they're like, nah, and they're like, all right, we'll throw a few more bucks at him, see what happens. Like this is, Riff, like you're saying, this is a guy who changes a lineup for 162 games. You're getting one of the best players in baseball coming off a Gold Glove season. And you can say some of his RBI numbers were down and stuff last year. The Astros, if you remember, were having a weird season where they couldn't score for crap. He had nobody on for him. He had the same number of total bases. He was getting on at the same clip. Like, he was slightly down in on base percent, but besides that, like, this is not Alex Bregman falling off. Is he replicating his 2019 where he almost finished second in MVP? No, but this is a top 3 at worst third baseman in baseball. Like, you add him to the Cubs, you add him to the Red Sox, you add him back to, Houston. He changes that lineup. The Astros are going to be significantly worse this year if Alex Bregman is not there. They will be significantly worse because he is a guy, like you said, Rip, who shows up 162 games and just gets it done. And on top of that, when it turns to October, the dude's going to put on a show and help you win a title. I mean, it really is crazy. Like, I feel like every year we have these free agents that are stars that just get, like, people are like, if he gets added there. Like, people are talking about Alex Bregman. I've seen some people getting added to the Red Sox like, oh, that'd be a nice veteran move. That would be adding a star player.
I mean, Zach, I'm with you. You know what's funny to me, number wise, he slugged higher last year than he did in 2023. Like, he's at minimum over the last 3 full seasons, he's had no less than 23 home runs. He's averaging, if we're doing this, essentially 24 to 25 home runs a year the last 3 years and over 30 doubles. He's striking out. His strikeout ratio is so good. Zach, his strikeout ratio this last year in a down year was he struck out every time, two strikeouts that he had, he walked. There was guys in Major League Baseball where there was 50 players or something that struck out 150 plus times, whatever it was. Alex Bregman struck out 86 times. The year before, he almost had a 1-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. So I'm with you. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel when people want to say about conversations. And I know people, if the Orioles didn't have Jordan Westberg or Jackson Holiday, that would have been the number one for me of being like, yeah,
go get him.
Go get him. Because I like the talent. I like what he does. Any other team, and you have the space available, go get him. It's the same knock that people give Francisco Lindor until this year. Mm-hmm. Until this year. I'm going on a rant now. Now I'm pissed off. People were bashing Francisco Lindor. Francisco Lindor shows up every game. And finally he got the recognition he deserved. Like, people forgot he wasn't that player in Cleveland. Oh, he had one down year. You forget about the great player that he is. We don't need to recreate anything. You're not making things up anymore. Alex Bregman is a winning player. Alex Bregman will help you win. And somebody is going to sign him. And if he comes to the AL East and it's Boston,
I just hope he's the Cubs so I can cheer for him. I want it to be the Cubs so I can cheer for him.
Or the Tigers. If you're an Orioles fan, that would be one of the worst moves of the offseason for me, is if Bregman ends up in the AL East if you're an Orioles fan. Rocco, I'm sorry. We're getting off topic
I like
here.
the fire. I love the fire there. And you use the words knock.
Disrespecting Bregman, and it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, you use the words knock and bashing when you're talking about Bregman. I really do appreciate that too. It's context clues there. So thank you, Rip, for that rant, and thank you for using those code words as well. So
okay, continue.
I'm just saying, like, they're great words to describe what was happening. Moving on to the fourth and final burner as we wrap this show up before Ryan absolutely kills me for the stream ends. We're going to talk O's. And I know we talked Mountie at the top of the show. That was burner one, but there's some fun stuff going on within the Orioles organization. For one, Adam Jones, an Orioles legend, has returned to the team in the role as a special advisor to general manager Mike Elias. And also his title will be community ambassador as well. So shout out to Adam Jones. It's pretty cool to see him return to Baltimore and to be able to do this, like, with this organization. One where the fan base just absolutely loves him, comes back as Mr. Splash last year. I mean, he is definitely well-respected and well-loved within the organization. One of the Orioles' newest additions That is Tamayuki Sagano showing off his stuff in a bullpen session. We got that video right here, so we're going to check that out.
Inside corner. You do that. You do that.
Okay, 35-year-old gas. That's like I like what I saw right there. Yeah. 71. Yeah. No.
Hey man, hey, look, he looks good. I'm excited to see him come on over here and play, man. I am. I'm excited to see him down in spring training. We're obviously, as for the Ryan Ripken show, maybe not Rocco, but the rest of us, we're gonna figure out a time to go down and see how things are. Just kidding, Rock. You can come by on the trip as well. I really want to see him in action. I just want him to be healthy. We know spring training, like I told you guys, it's not going to really matter to me if he gets lit up or he doesn't. It's really going to be when opening day starts and you're in the full swing of it. How does he look against the guys day in and day out? But still, of all the guys, though, during spring training, I'd love to see how he faces other lineups because this is our first time seeing that in that setting. World Baseball Classic aside, playing over in Japan aside, it's really great. I did hear the report, Rock, though. You talk about Adam Jones, and congratulations to him. Yeah. I know he wanted to be back involved with the organization. I know a lot of the fans, community, love to see him back with the Birds, and hopefully that can lead to more things. But one thing Adam also has, he played over in Japan and had the presence.
Yeah.
Right, Rock? I think you were like, and I think that we're seeing the movement that there are a lot of talented players that are over there in Japan, and that hopefully they realize that Baltimore could be a good destination to come and bring their talents to. And Sagano could be a great example if he goes out there and does his thing.
And if you get a guy like Adam over there to scout that talent, check out what they have. And not only that, like talk with these guys as well. This is a guy that played in the leagues over there and has seen this talent firsthand. So he knows if a guy's a stud or a dud. I mean, and you're not always going to be right in that sense, but if you're playing over there, you see the talent, you see the release, you see how guys operate, all right, this guy's a dog before he even pops up on like the rest of MLB's radar. So like, it's good to have a guy like that in your corner if you're Mike Elias, and hopefully that leads to a much bigger things going forward for the O's. So definitely love that. We talked about Adam. We talked about Sagano. How about Gunnar Henderson, man? It's pretty cool to see the Orioles' young superstar grace the cover of MLB The Show. And Zach, I said history because I don't believe an Orioles player has ever been on the cover of MLB The Show. So
maybe not the show. Probably not the show.
He's the first, and that is the video game for baseball right now. We're done with the days of MVP baseball. Unfortunately, that's taken.
Which is rough. 2K was fun to do.
I don't think I ever dabbled with 2K. Maybe I played like one, but like MVP baseball, and I think it was the year 2004 when Pujols was on the cover, and the soundtrack and the music and just like, I don't know, just like hitting nukes when you were there was unbelievable. That's hilarious. Pookie on the cover. Yeah, so Gunnar on the cover with two other young superstars, and that's Elly De La Cruz, the shortstop for the Cincinnati Reds, and then you have Paul Skeens, the stud ace, and arguably one of the best, the best pitcher in baseball. He's gonna be there if he's not already with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So great to see with Gunnar, and this is like every kid's dream. I feel like growing up and playing the game, Rip.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think what I love what MLB just did. They got three of their players that they think are going to be the faces of the league moving forward. Like three of the faces, right? Because there's some other great players, but Elly De La Cruz, the excitement, the explosiveness, and the upside that he has. He's electrifying to watch. Gunnar Henderson speaks for himself, one of the best players already in baseball. And then Paul Skeens, you could argue, might be the best pitcher after this year. Like that is the part of it, and that's not even an exaggeration anymore. If he goes out there and dominates,
just does what he does. I mean, God,
it's not. I mean, it's impressive. So good for MLB The Show for identifying those guys. It's always great. And the other part too is the business side. Rock, you want people to be involved with your product. So why not put three of the most electrifying players? That's what I think they chose. Gunnar, electrifying, super talented. People have gravitated towards him. Paul Skeens was the most talked about player last year when it came to being called up, starting the All-Star game, and then Elly De La Cruz. Everyone was waiting for the highlight that he made. It's strategical, right? It's strategical what they're trying to do, and good for them because those three players are guys that every fan would want to go pay to watch. Like, actually, I got to go see that guy play.
Yeah, and I stand corrected on the MLB The Show history. I'm talking about the United States version. So international versions, I was absolutely wrong, and I'm going to own that and take that. But it's pretty cool to see Orioles represented year in, year out. So Gunner being on there, it's just, I mean, it's really cool to see. So that's cool. I appreciate that note and that little tidbit of information there. The more you know. Anyway.
While we were on, Carlos Estevez. Yeah, Carlos Estevez, the closer, spent the final bid of the year with the Phillies, correct? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, he got traded from the
Angels, right?
Correct.
Yes, from the Angels. So that's a good pickup for the Royals. The Royals are just gonna. I think I like that the Royals have just admitted they're just like, we're just gonna be the scrappy ass team that's just gonna win games. Like, they're just like, we have what we have, and it's just gonna be a scrappy ass game every single time. They're like, we're gonna pitch really freaking well. We're gonna move guys over. We're gonna just bloop and that's why it was so annoying playing them in the playoffs, because their brand of baseball is so incredibly annoying in the playoffs because they just scrap. They just try to win.
That's like the AL Central in general. Is like how I kind of describe them. And that's how the players would describe him. Like Dino, when I talk to him and when he's come on, Dean Kramer will say, like, it's just a scrappy division. They just know how to bounce and just put together at bats that just can frustrate you, exhaust you, but they're not maybe putting the fear that like an Aaron Judge type of player will, but it's that they just don't give in. They keep battling. One thing I want to know with Estevez, 26 saves last year between the Angels and the Phillies, only 6 saves with the Phillies in 21 innings, 2 blown saves, 5 on the year for Estevez, but a guy that he is a top-tier pitcher. Royals are going to be good again. They're going to be good again. I'm excited for them. Bobby Witt Jr., the Pasquatch should be healthy as well.
Yeah.
So
Pasquatch. Love
like
that.
all that matters.
The Italian stallion, man. He's repping for the Paisans out there. I love it.
He is.
Did you guys see his interview talking about George Springer, where he's like, George Springer has never thought he's been swinging the bat well ever in his career. And he was like, he remembered one time he like walked up to him while he was at first base, and he's like, yeah, man, I'm grinding. It's been an awful year. He's like, I'm just trying to get through just day by day. And he's like, and I literally turned around and he's batting .312 with an .850 OPS. And he's like, if you're grinding, I would love to see what you look like when you're on.
Dude, I respect the hell out of people that have that mentality, but it's like almost an eye roll. It's almost an eye roll sometimes when guys are playing that well, and you're just like, fuck you, man. It's like, you know what? This is like, I'm here and like down in the dumps hitting like 215 right now, and you're hitting 312 complaining about it. Like, grow up. But I love it because these guys strive for greatness, and they know what's that.
I said, believe me, you have no idea. Like, you have an idea, but I know some guys.
I know some guys too. Yeah. Just one of them. When are we going to get Dean on the show, by the way? I miss that guy.
Yeah, I got to check in. He's getting ready to travel.
I think he could take like 10 to 15 minutes of his time, and I'll say it out loud, and I hope he hears it or tunes in and join us on the show. Hot Stuff Happy Hour.
You want me to text him that right now?
Yeah. Tell him I'm looking forward to having more sushi with him in spring training again, Sarasota. Tell him your favorite former sports reporter says hello. Good kid.
I don't know if I don't think he'll reciprocate favorite back, but
He might. He said some, had some very high praise for me.
Is that what you would call it?
He's a nice guy to me. He respects me. Those other guys, they hate me.
Now, is that because of your doing or their doing, Rocco? Let's have some.
Because of Rip's doing. Rip just tells people some bad things about me and circulates, and here we are.
I don't do that. I don't do that.
Like Bauman probably thought I had like an IQ of 12, and I might, but
I mean that was by yourself there. And by the way, Bauman, he's over in Japan.
Is he?
Yeah, how's he like
I do remember when he signed over there. Yeah.
It's good.
How's he like it over there?
He's getting settled in.
What time is it in Japan right now? Let's see.
It's very different. Yeah, get the watch out there.
Sure, he's tuned in.
It's 9:00. Can you FaceTime him right now and see if he'll join for like 10 minutes?
9 a.m.
Yeah. Think he's up?
I'll text
Oh
him.
my God. You know what, Blake? Kiss my ass. I'm absolutely getting roasted by this man in the chat right now. And you know what? It's okay.
Good.
Okay.
You know,
As it should be.
Maybe Joe.
No, he hasn't.
Oh, let's play our favorite game. Name a random Oriole in the chat.
It's always fun.
I love this game. Cesar S. Torres was my favorite Oriole growing up.
I was actually going to throw that one out there.
He was one of my favorite players of all time on the Orioles. I don't know why. I love, obviously, Brian Roberts, number one. That was always.
Yeah, you know what I was thinking about? One, Joey Rickard is a recent one. Back in the day, BJ Ryan, Mike Timlin. I have a bunch of old ones. What? Not a random, because Baltimore fans will know. But, Jerry Harrison Jr., because I have MVP Baseball 05, still the best video game.
I love a good XPA reference.
Jerry just sits there with his Emmys and never wants to talk about him. All the Emmys that he's won post-baseball career. The guy's a legend. How about this one?
Yeah, Jerry just pipes golf balls. He gets to enjoy being out there with the Dodgers. They're winning every year, or feels like they are. Well, they're winning right now in the offseason, too. And then he's just the man. He's awesome. On top of it. A lot of good ones, though.
I have one who also played for the Phillies, and the reason I remember him is because I was down, and I forget what team he was on this year, but I was down at Camden Yards. We took a bus down. It was just like a bunch of us from the Philadelphia area to see the Phils play the Orioles. This was like back in like 2010, like 2012. And the O's, I think, walked off the Phillies in that game, and I'll never forget, because I know he played for both teams, but I forget which team he was on at that time. That when we're going back on the bus, this guy was like, "Damn it, that Cy Wigginton," and he had like a bit of a lisp, and I'm not making fun, but like it just like every time I hear the name Ty Wigginton, I think of the Orioles because of that moment. He's just damn it, Ty Wigginton.
I used to love Ty Wigginton.
That's what he called him, though. Yeah, Ty. It's like. It's just a baseball name, Ty Wigginton.
Yeah.
Ty Wigginton. Yeah, that's what Gibson said. That's exactly how they said it. It was Ty Wigginton.
Like I don't know if Javi Lopez is on that MVP Baseball 05 team. Electric. Amazing.
Does Sammy Sosa really like constitute as like a random Oriole? Because
that's the same thing with like Albert Bell here.
Yeah.
Like
you can't consider Sammy Sosa like a random anything because of what he did over the course of his baseball career. But like, if we're talking about obscure like players that just don't look right in that uniform, it's like Sammy Sosa. It's like Vince Carter in like a Magic jersey.
Yeah. Weird. Well, I mean, we did have one of those guys. I mean, Sammy Sosa, Vlad Sr.
You know what's funny? When I got here, Rip, I never knew that Jim Thome played for the O's. I had no clue.
What?
Because I remember him as playing for Cleveland and playing for Philly. And that he was like a Philly legend. I did not remember that during my childhood, him playing for the O's.
Yeah, that's great. They all have different ones. But yeah, Jim Thome, I think, hit his final home run of his career in Baltimore.
Crazy.
I like Jim
Yeah.
Tomey a lot, man. Jim is amazing. I actually talked to him today.
No way.
Did you?
Yeah.
Tell him I said hello. He'll remember me.
Well,
When I was like 8 years old and I took a picture with him at the Phillies Fan Fest. Very nice guy.
that can be the first conversation I have with him.
Yeah. I'll bring up the picture. Let me see if I can find it. It's a good one.
Literally like the nicest guy.
Oh, seems like a super nice dude.
There's a lot of nice guys out there that with it. Larry Walker is really nice. Ozzie Smith is great. Jim Tomey's great. Dave Winfield's great. Ken Griffey Jr. is great. But Jim's like jolly all the time.
He seems like a jolly fellow. Like
He
would.
is.
Yeah.
It's a good one here too. Joe Orsolak. There'd be apparently a chant on the road when Joe would play. And we'll wrap it up here, but they'd go like, "What's the matter with Orsolak?" And everyone would yell back, "He's a bum." I like that was one that I heard that's one that they told me when I was a kid. I thought that was funny. Like, but I'm like, hey, if they're chanting your name, that means you're doing something. So, yeah,
He's stuck in my head now. What's the matter with Orsolak?
we might have a different song for you at some point.
Dude, I love all the Jeff Conine. Or no, is that Jeff Connie? Jeff Conine?
No, Jeff Conine.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
I saw. I know Jeff Conine. Did he? Because he went to the Marlins and won a World Series there, right? Was he on that team? In 03 over the Yankees. Jeff Conine. Conine.
Yes. He was there in 97.
Yeah, and I think he won with the Marlins in 03. If I'm getting my years correct. And I'm stalling for the stream to end because I know people are like, what the hell are you guys doing and talking about? But this is a fun conversation.
You won in 93.
I gotta
97. It's first
97.
time.
Okay.
Yeah. But
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, well, hey, this was a good stream as always here for our happy hour. And before also that we like wrap it all up, we got to shout out again, our sponsor up in Adams Jeep they are the big baseball fans of the Ryan Ripken show and Adams Jeep of Maryland. And guess what, Zach?
Over.
1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi,
What up, Trippy?
1 Mississippi. Boom! Look at that.
Boom.
Our friends at Adams Jeep of Maryland, they might help us a little bit, maybe with some spring training. But Chuck wants to get down here for some of the shows during baseball season. But Adams Jeep of Maryland, go check out adamsjeepofmaryland.com, 5 minutes from the Ironbird Stadium. You go up there, you say you love the Ryan Ripken show, and you buy a new or used vehicle or use the phrase Rocco sucks. With purchase, you'll get $1,000 in gas money. So it's a great deal, and we also love our friends at Adams Jeep of Maryland. Again, adamsjeepofmaryland.com if you guys want to find out more information on what cars are available and service. Get my car service there.
You know what
hopefully not all the time, but when I need them, they are always there for me. They're awesome. So
you know what the best part about that is? If you go and say Rocco sucks, none of this money goes to me. I don't get any royalties from Chuck at Adams Jeep.
No one cares.
It's not about royalties. It's actually just goes to the customer.
Nobody gets
the community.
Yeah, but I'm selfish.
We know.
Yeah. So what? Anyway.
All right. Well, on that note, guys, appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be live tomorrow from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time as we get ready for this week. And for those that don't know, we will be live then. We will be live on Friday for our special show up at Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia at 12 p.m. on Friday. And also, if you missed out on the giveaways, the ESPN Bet Bundle giveaways, go to Instagram, go to X right now, and make sure that you're entered in on that. Follow Ryan Ripken Show, follow Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races for a chance to win the bundle. And then make sure you tune in on Friday because we're giving away some more things. And maybe with our special guest, Santana Moss, we might be having something else join us as far as giveaways are concerned. So,
by the way, with that, if you are in the area, if you know someone who's a Commanders fan or wants to meet Santana Moss, let them know, please. We want to get people out there. to this event, and it's a great chance to meet a great person and hang out with us as well. So definitely put that on your friends' radars and come out and have a good time. If you do have off from work on Friday, you don't work on Friday, or you work late on Friday, 11 to 2, Santana Moss will be there for that meet and greet. So it's going to be a hell of a time. So bring your stuff, enjoy, and have a great time.
Thank you, Rocco. Appreciate that.
I just have to echo what you said.
Echo. All right, Zach, any closing words?
No, I think we're good. Nothing. Let's make something happen. Let's just make something happen. I don't know. I feel like I'm the Squidward meme watching, all the other teams like making these massive, like, I don't know. Let's make something happen.
Oh yeah.
Let's get Bregman.
Yeah.
Screw it.
Let's do it.
Screw it.
Bye,
Thank you,
Blake.
Rocco. All right, everyone. Appreciate you. Have a day, have a night, have a great stinking rest of your Wednesday. And thank you for joining us for the MLB Hot Stove Happy Hour. Hit that like and subscribe button on the way out. And we'll see you tomorrow live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for the full edition of the Ryan Ripken Show.
Bam, bam, bam. Bam, bam,